So, I kind of made a mistake. Lol. I did make a mistake. I really did make a mistake. And so let me just share that with you right here, right now. Now, if you haven't been here before, welcome to the Why Approach podcast. This is me, Gian Reyes, your host, and this is where we just talk about everything that I've learned in the past couple years. And it's some lessons that I've learned, and I'm just being unapologetically me. And I know if I've learned these lessons, someone else could probably learn from them too, right? And so let's head straight in. So, about what I was talking about, literally like a second ago, it basically was I kind of just made a mistake like that everyone pretty much makes. But the problem is, a lot of people don't see it as a mistake. So, let me just go ahead and tell it to you. And so, I remember one time I would literally was just, scrolling through Instagram. I got into a whole rabbit hole like many other people do. You feel me? And I got stuck in a rabbit hole that literally just made me believe a whole bunch of different things. Like made me literally, not even made me. I allowed it to influence me into believing that America was terrible, that I needed to leave the country as soon as possible, that everything was going to trash, this world has no hope, everything like that. Now, I can tell you some of that is true. I'm telling you, like, this world is not in a great place, and I don't know how it's gonna go better, but I'm choosing to see the greatness inside of it, right? And so I remember I was out with my family and something came up where I just started spitting out everything that I've learned from Instagram from one person, I guess. And like me and my parents really think alike. And so the rest of my family was like, that's not normally how he thinks. And then my parents were just like, yo, like what? Like they stayed silent. They let me speak like an idiot. And I just kept talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, and then I just finished and they were like, okay. And so hung out, finished and everything like that. And so we go back home. And so my mom is talking to me. She's like, hey, by the way, what the heck? What was that? Like, tell me again what kind of made you think like that and stuff. And then I literally was just like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, okay, then where did you learn that? Like, what actually makes you think that is based in reality, right? And I was just like, huh, I don't know. Like I couldn't tell her anything that I was like actually learning from Instagram. And she kind of just pointed me out. She kept me accountable and was just like, you don't normally think like this. So why are you allowing yourself to be influenced by people who don't even care about you like that? And into things that like you don't normally believe, and it's not like new insight or whatever. It's just I kind of swayed away by the crowd, and it really did check on me. And I was just like, shoot, like I made a mistake. Whoa, like that's crazy. I could have went in a complete rabbit hole, like literally, because if you just do one thing incorrectly, like for instance, there's a story in the Bible, not a story, but actually is. Um, there's where Jesus is talking. He basically says like a parable and a metaphor or whatever like that. And so basically he just says like one part of yeast always goes through all of the bread. That I'm very much paraphrasing, but that's pretty much what it was. But it's basically saying this. If you allow one thing to come in, right? One thing to come in against your values or against your belief, not even against, right? Could be just like off direction of where you actually really want to go, then it just sets you all the way off. Why do I say this? It's because once you put yeast in bread, it spreads all throughout and like basically rises the bread, as we all see how bread is made. But it's the same thing with our lives. If there's just one little drop that we don't really pay attention to, then guess what? It spreads all throughout our lives. If we doubt one area, like and we doubt whether God loves us or whether we're actually valuable or we're born in the wrong bodies or something like that, it spreads all throughout our lives and then impacts us. It shapes who we are at that moment. And then we become someone who we didn't want to become, but we allowed ourselves to become that by just allowing a little bit of compromise, whether it's in our mindset, whether it's in the actions that we do, whether it's in anything like that. And I noticed that I was doing this. I let that little yeast kind of like leave in my bread a little bit, and it formed in my speech. And so I was just like, shoot, like That's crazy. Like, that's not okay. I need to change. I need to do something different. And so she checked me. She gave me accountability, which is something I really, really needed at the moment, even when I didn't realize. And so, and I noticed that this is the way I was the state of the world, really, like the state of the entire world, most of the world, especially America that I can know in my generation, totally being swayed by anything and everything that everyone says on social media, which is just like pretty much just an echo chamber of whatever they get inclined to, pretty much. And it's crazy. And so it's not like I saw what someone was saying and then I was like, okay, then let me search up the facts. Let me look up to whatever the person is saying, right? No, I didn't do that. I just went along with what they were saying and believed it as true, which isn't good, because then I was just a puppet at that point. Like a lot of us, we think that we're independent thinkers. We think that we're revolutionizing society with our new thoughts and everything like that. When in reality, no, we're just puppets following whatever the big man or whatever the person that we admire says. Like that's not intelligence. That's not being extraordinary. You're just being normal. You're being a follower. That's what that is. And I noticed because I was like this nearly all of my life. I just like in the past couple of years, I just now started independently thinking, looking up the facts on my own, whether it's with my beliefs, whether it's about money, whether it's about anything like that, looking up for the facts by myself and understanding, does this align with what I'm supposed to do? Does this align with what I want to do? And is this what I want to do with my life? And is this what God is calling me to do in my life? Rather than what another person says I should do, right? And a lot of times my generation, Gen Z, and everyone else can be swayed, literally. But we've gotten so used to not even thinking. We just take the information as is and we're like, oh, that's true. That's true. I'll believe it right then and there. And then I'll state it as fact. And then when someone comes to refute you, you're just like, oh, no, I shouldn't have the conversation anymore. Or you just get mad and you just don't want to talk to them and you call them a bigot or whatever like that. And it's crazy. It literally is. And so that's one of the frustrating things about me that I saw, because I was like, I was slowly going towards that path. Because, like, when my mom confronted me about what I was saying and what I was thinking and believing that was true, I kind of got mad. Like, I was like, how dare you? Blah, 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 blah. I didn't say how dare you. I was just like a little bit obviously uncomfortable because I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you disproving me or whatever like that? Why are you coming against me? And it was just like I got mad, and now I understand a little bit more of why other people get so mad whenever you try and have a civil discussion about something that they don't agree with, because it's not their own opinions. If it's not their own opinion, then they don't have anything to actually back it up. Because if it was their opinion, if they wholeheartedly believed it and thought of it for themselves, then they would have something to defend everything that you're talking about. And even when you get to a good point and you're like, hey, I kind of like the evidence puts you in a corner where it's what you're saying is not actually that correct, you would be like, oh, shoot. Like, then you'll be a mature human being and understand, like, oh, I'm wrong. I am sorry. Like, I should probably think this over. But instead, a lot of people say, no, you're mean. You're attacking me personally, and I will attack you personally. And this conversation is over. And not to get, this isn't to be a political, this isn't to say anything like that. Absolutely not. This is just saying how the state of the world is, and somehow, like, I managed to fight into it because obviously I'm human. I'm part of this world. I'm inside of it, right? So obviously I'm going to experience some things like that. And it's honestly a sad time. It really is. Because I mean, if you have no independent thoughts of yourself, then you're literally not an individual. You're not an individual thinker. You're thinking just like everybody else. And that's not the way to live. It's not. It's not the way to live at all, literally. You're just staying living around like puppets, and you're just like, oh, I'll just do whatever the person I admire says, And then guess what? That person can take advantage of you. That person can take your money. That person can do all sorts of things. And you think it's like, oh, it's okay because I admire them. No, you got to be an independent thinker. You got to be a person who thinks for themselves. Because I can guarantee you this. You may not know this, but I'm a Christian. Don't mean I hate anybody. I love all people. But I'm going to say this. If you're not an independent thinker, God made you to be an independent thinker. Not so that you'll rebel against them. I mean, even then, you still have the choice to do so. But he made you to think for yourself, because when things come against you, when things come against, let's say, the facts, but they're really clothed and disguised with something that looks very, very pretty and very, very understandable and very, very loving or whatever, but is actually a blatant lie to you or to your family or to your money or to your situation, to your country, then you're supposed to think for yourself and use the brain power that he gave you of independent reasoning and deductive thinking. I probably said that wrong, but whatever. And you're supposed to use that in order to understand what the truth is, rather than accepting what everyone else calls the truth. The thing is, we're supposed to find out what it really is. Does that make sense? You're not probably going to reply, but whatever. I'll cut that out. So this isn't a political thing. It really is not. Like, I don't want to get into that space. Absolutely not. This is just me sharing my thoughts with the passion that I got. And you're here to listen if you really want to listen. So, yeah, let's go. But it's just, we need to be independent thinkers. We need to think for ourselves, right? And not be swayed by everyone around us just trying to influence us in so many different directions. Because then we're just so freaking confused. We're not going to be happy with our own lives. We're not going to be fulfilled in our own lives. We're not going to go after what we've been created to do because we keep thinking of what everyone else says is true, when really the creator made you for a reason and what he says is true. Because I mean, he is literally the truth. If he created you, then he created you for a reason. You don't create things not on purpose, right? This phone right here was created for a purpose, which is to call and do whatever else mischievous things that you can do on this phone. But it's not made by accident. I can tell you that. And this is just my sight on what life is and what I've seen in this life. Now, I'm not going to go on a whole debate or whatever like that. That's not the whole point, but I'm just sharing what I know to be true and what I have honestly lived in this life. Because I can tell you, especially when I was younger, I would just be swayed so much by lies, so much by, now that I see that are lies, I got manipulated by so many other people, stayed in bad relationships that were so toxic, and it literally was the worst. It literally was the worst. I felt used. I felt like unworthy of, like, I was just like, what the heck am I doing? Man, like, I hate this. I hate where I am at. And like, I felt like there was no way out because I didn't think for myself. I just saw whatever was coming to me and I was just like, okay, I guess that has to be true then. And like, one thing that actually hit me the hardest was, this is a little story of mine. So when I was in 8th grade, I had a girlfriend, whatever, that lasted like 3 months or something like that. Not even 3 months. I think it was like a month or whatever. But lasted 3 months and then it broke off because the girl cheated on me with my best friend at the time. And so that was really hard, obviously, because it'd be hard for anybody else. Would you think so? And but what I believed what I believed of myself because of that moment, of what they didn't really say with their words, but they said with their actions, was that I'm not valuable enough for a committed friendship or a committed relationship. And then that led me to just not getting in relationships for honestly years. And honestly, I had like this kind of mistrust. Obviously, I've forgiven the person and whatever like that now, but it was definitely a hard thing to go through. So much anger, so much that because of something that I believed the lie in. Because like, that's their problem if they wanted to cheat. I'm like, I'm doing my best. I literally did my best. I was the best 8th grader boyfriend that you could ever be, pretty much. At least the one that I could try to be. And it was tough because I felt so much anger, so much insecurity, so much hurt. And I believed the lie that that event told me. And I didn't believe the truth about myself, which is I was created for a reason. And just because people treat me like trash doesn't mean that I am literally trash. No, I have inherent value because I'm created by the God of the universe. So are you. Lol. But that's the difference. Because if I had actually independent thinking at that point, if I was an independent thinker, I probably would have been more resilient. I probably would have been more strong in my confidence. And then when that happened, my confidence literally went from, average, right? Healthy, yeah, and then just completely plummeted. I thought myself as nothing. I literally was so insecure, I dove straight into a porn addiction. And that like ravaged my life so much more. And it was honestly terrible. I could barely look at people in the face. I could barely hold conversations. I could barely even talk to new people. And it was just really, really bad. It wasn't nice. It really wasn't. And that's something that honestly just shaped my life. And now I'm learning now I need to be an independent thinker. And that's why I say to you, that's just this podcast, like be an independent thinker. Think for yourself. Have deductive reasoning is like, is this really true? Did this really happen? Or is the news trying to pump up more headlines or trying to get fear into me, into myself, into my family, or whatever like that? Because you got to honestly ask yourself, is it real or is it false? Because if it's false, don't let yourself believe that, because then it will just shape you into a person who's always fearful, always angry, always depressed, because you think the world is going to chaos and the world is so much worse than it actually is. And then you won't actually be able to accomplish the purpose that I know that you've been called to do. But it all happens when you start actively deciding, like, wait, let me verify this. Let me actually look into this. Let me actually do my best with this. And if we don't, then we'll just be average, right? Anyway, that's my little rant. And that's for today's episode. If you like today, subscribe, like, whatever. Do whatever you want. I don't know. But I love you guys. And remember, as always, start growing, start now. God bless you guys.